Right now, over 100,000 airplanes are in the sky. You probably think computers keep them apart? They don't. Every one of those aircraft is being separated by a human voice, speaking over a radio system designed decades ago. And in the United States, the people doing that job are running out. 45,000? That's how many flights move through American airspace every single day. Every one of them is guided by a human being. Most of them are guided by several. The system has 3 layers. When your plane pushes back from the gate, a tower controller clears you to move. They watch you taxi. They clear you to take off. They own you until you leave their airspace. Then they hand you off. A radar facility called TRACON takes over, Terminal Radar Approach Control. These controllers manage every aircraft climbing out of or descending into an airport. Dozens of planes, converging altitudes, conflicting speeds, all separated by voice. Then they hand you off again. Now you're in the hands of an en route center. These are the controllers who manage the sky between cities. Hundreds of aircraft across hundreds of thousands of square miles. Every one of them a dot on a screen. Every dot a decision, and when you begin your descent, the process reverses. Center to TRACON, TRACON to tower, hand to hand to hand. That chain works. It has worked for decades. Millions of flights, millions of handoffs. A safety record that no other transportation system on Earth can match. But the chain has a condition that almost nobody talks about. Every single link is a person, and the equipment those people depend on is not what you think it is. The radar systems tracking flights across America average 36 years old. Most of them date to the 1980s. The FAA's own budget proposal describes 618 airborne radar systems that have exceeded their intended lifespan. Outages are increasing. Replacement parts are becoming impossible to find. The Transportation Secretary told Congress the FAA has resorted to buying spare parts on eBay. In January 2023, a single corrupted file brought the entire system to its knees. The software was called NOTAM, the Notice to Air Mission System. Every pilot in America checks it before takeoff. It carries critical safety alerts, runway closures, airspace restrictions, hazards. The file that failed was in a system that was 30 years old. The backup held the same corrupted data. And for the first time since September 11th, 2001, every flight in the United States was grounded. 13,000? That's the number of air traffic controllers responsible for the busiest airspace on Earth. Between 2010 and 2024, the number of controllers in the United States fell by 13%. In that same period, the number of flights rose 6.5%. Those two lines are moving in opposite directions, and they have been for over a decade. 285 of the FAA's 313 air traffic control facilities are operating below recommended staffing levels. Only 2 meet their targets. 2. At Atlanta Hartsfield, the single busiest airport on the planet, staffing is 17% below full strength. The people guiding more aircraft than any other facility in the world do not have enough people to do it safely. So where are the replacements? Every year, roughly 200,000 people apply to become air traffic controllers. About 2% make it through. The process is not fast. It was never designed to be. Every candidate must pass an aptitude assessment, a medical screening, a security clearance. Then most enter a training academy in Oklahoma City for 4 to 6 months. If they graduate, and a quarter of them don't, they begin on-the-job training at a facility. Full certification can take up to 6 years. You cannot accelerate this. And while the pipeline crawls, the FAA loses roughly 1,600 controllers every year. Retirements, transfers, resignations, training failures, deaths. 1,600 out, a fraction of that back in and certified. The math doesn't close. So the people still in the system absorb the difference. Overtime hours per controller have quadrupled since 2013. 6-day weeks. 10-hour shifts. Mandatory. Controllers watching radar scopes for hours while their bodies are telling them to stop. And here's the part that should concern you most. A controller's brain does not work like yours. Not in that chair. In that chair, their mind is holding hundreds of spatial relationships simultaneously. Speed, altitude, heading, rate of closure. For every aircraft on their scope, all at once. Fatigue does not make a controller slower. It makes them blind. Blind to the one conflict that matters. And when a system is stretched this thin, it doesn't fail gradually. It fails all at once. And sometimes it already has. January 29th, 2025, Reagan National Airport, Washington, D.C., 9 o'clock at night. A regional jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members was on final approach, inbound from Wichita, Kansas, descending toward runway 33. At the same time, a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter was flying south along the Potomac River on a training mission. One controller was managing both. The helicopter crew reported visual contact with the jet twice. It is unknown whether they were watching the correct aircraft. The two aircraft collided at approximately 300 feet above the Potomac River. Everyone on board both aircraft was killed, 67 people. It was the deadliest air disaster in the United States since 2001. The tower at Reagan National had been operating nearly a third below its staffing targets. The controller, handling both the helicopter and the commercial traffic, was performing a dual role. The FAA's own internal report described the configuration as not normal for the time of day and volume of traffic. The National Transportation Safety Board later found that the FAA had been warned repeatedly about the helicopter route's proximity to the approach path. The warnings were ignored. The United States government later acknowledged in a federal court filing that it had breached its duty of care. The system designed to keep aircraft apart had failed to keep two of them from occupying the same point in the sky. But the crash was not the anomaly. It was the warning. In 2024, the FAA recorded 1,664 runway incursions across the United States. Moments when an aircraft, a vehicle, or a person was on a runway without authorization. Between 2017 and 2023, the most serious of these incidents, the ones where a collision was narrowly avoided, nearly tripled. And then the system was tested again. In the fall of 2025, the United States government shut down. Air traffic controllers classified as essential were ordered to keep working, without pay. Nearly half of major air traffic control facilities reported staffing shortages. In the New York region, up to 90% of controllers called out. At Los Angeles International, flights were forced into a ground stop. At Hollywood Burbank, the control tower had 0 controllers on duty for 6 hours. The tower was open, the runway was active, but the sky above it had no one watching. A system this stretched does not fail slowly. It failed on January 29th. It failed at Burbank. And it fails every day in ways that never make the news because someone caught the conflict just in time. Barely. This is not an aviation problem. Every hospital supply shipment, every overnight package, every passenger crossing the country depends on aircraft moving safely through this airspace. And the system keeping them apart is being held together by people who haven't had a day off in 2 weeks. The system survives because of the people inside it. The controllers who show up for mandatory overtime, who catch conflicts before they become headlines, who sit down at a scope knowing the chair beside them might be empty. They do not talk about what they do. Most of them never will. The FAA says it plans to hire 2,000 controllers per year, but it takes up to 6 years to fully certify one. Even if everything goes perfectly, no shutdowns, no budget freezes, no training pauses, no pandemic, the staffing gap will not close for nearly a decade. And in systems like this, something always goes wrong. Congress approved $12.5 billion to modernize the air traffic control system. The Department of Transportation says it needs another $19 billion. The replacement platform has not been built, the contract has not been finalized, the timeline stretches years into the future. And the radars installed in the 1980s are still spinning. The people holding this together are extraordinary. They are not enough, and they know it. Right now, more than 100,000 aircraft are moving through the sky. Still separated, still guided, the voice on the radio is still there. For now.